Welcoming you in to the second ever edition of the USFL Podcast. Zach Kyleman in hosting for this one. And of course, alongside with me, I can't have the USFL Podcast without my good host, my good compadre. I got the ref, Stefan, with me here as we are getting set to talk about, not as I would say as spastic a news week, but stuff still came down the pipeline even post-coaching announcements. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty dang good. Like you mentioned, not as much news or maybe as explosive news as we saw in the first episode, but a lot of stuff to talk about regardless. I mean, we got potentials and speculation on some head coaches, maybe talking about some of the spring league guys. Of course, you know, we had to talk about everybody's favorite Antonio Brown and a maybe potential weird situation that could have possibly happened down in Tampa Bay. We'll touch on that later. We got some new USFL promos. We got all sorts of things to talk about, so we're not going to cover all the topics in the intro, but I hope you're doing good. I'm doing good. It's a new week. It's a new week. Episode number 2. The ice has been shattered. The jitters are gone. We got over 600 listens across all platforms in the first week, and I'd say,
how about that?
That's a success.
How about that? I was so ecstatic at how you folks, the listener or the viewer, as this is on either podcast or YouTube, chimed in, gave your thoughts and feedback. We had mailbag participants either in the YouTube comments or in emails. So thank you, by the way, for sending us in. We'll do those today. First episode was a blast and really hit off well. So I think we've got an audience here, and I'm looking forward to giving you guys as good a shows as possible, both of us, that is, when we move forward. A few things to house clean before we really dive into the meat and potatoes that Stefan mentioned and hinted at. Reminder, we are doing a second giveaway. We did 100 sub giveaway. We have 2 of them that we're either waiting on or are trying to do here. So first off, if you're the said user, and jog my memory,
Mr. E-Man, living up to his name, being the mystery man here. If you're out there, I know you're out there. You commented on the last video. You commented again, Bandit Ball. I replied to your comment. Come over to the Twitter, drop us a DM. Don't be shy. Don't be a mystery man. But if you don't contact, we're even doing you a solid here. On the last episode, we said we'd give you until Thursday night. Well, you know what? We're going to give you an extra week. But if we don't hear back by next Thursday, what are we doing, Zach?
We're going to be redoing that giveaway is what will happen. So, Mr. E-Man, you got some time, but we know you listen to the show. So if you hear us again, please get your prize. It's a t-shirt or a hat. And it's going to be the same thing for once we hit 250 subscribers. Same deal, doing a t-shirt and hat giveaway, random draw. You have to be both subscribed to the YouTube and join the Discord server for Pro Football Newsroom that has our USFL podcast on it and our community that we talk about the show with on there too. So be sure to do that. Again, that giveaway is at 250 subs. We're already at well over 170, and it's going really quickly day by day. So that could come up within the next show or so. I would be watching out for that if you are. But yeah, seriously, Mystery Man, get your prize, man. We're waiting for you. We're ready to give you a t-shirt or a hat of some kind. I mean, as you can see in our own shot here, or in my part at least, Stefan's got that nice USFL hat already. So, I mean, they make good quality stuff. It's solid stuff.
I liked it. I wasn't sure what to expect when I first got it, and I was pleasantly surprised. That's all I'll say. I will say I haven't gotten any of their t-shirts, but I can speak for their hats. But how exciting is that? I mean, we might have 2 winners to announce next week. If we get to 250 and Mystery Man doesn't come up and take off the veil, we got 2 winners for you next week. Minimum 1 if Mystery Man doesn't stop being a mystery man. Well, I think that's a heck of an intro. I think we jump right into this bad boy. I'm having fun
let's get into it. Let's get into this. Let's get into the, I would say, arguably the more, I don't even know if I would call it. To me, it's fun just because of the fact that it made such a conversation right after we had the coaching announcements last week. But it's also, to some people, it's like, can we please stop talking about this guy? Todd Haley is already in the news for the coaching staffs, and it's a player that was related back to his days with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So during the Full Send podcast, which is hosted by Bob Maneri, who's a sports personality, used online, used to work for Barstool Sports for a little bit, he had Antonio Brown on. For those that haven't been following Antonio Brown's story, he had a spectacular kind of walk-off cut mid-game against the Jets, week 17 with Tampa Bay. Whole news cycle goes around it, and AB's on the show, and during the show, he gets apparently a text, allegedly, from Todd Haley, which the text is then read off during the said show, which is essentially Todd Haley asking if Antonio Brown wants to play in the USFL. It became a ridiculous spectacle. There's also Bob Maneri, who owns part of a FCF team, Fan Control Football. He then made a proposal on that. But the USFL is in the news conversation. Look, I'm going to give my quick take on this. I thought it was, I mean, I got a good chuckle out of it because I'm like, okay, he's not going to take it and he's going to make fun of it. But this does follow the MO of what they've already done, because this is like the same thing they did with Pat McAfee, where they went, hey, you want to, maybe you want to come on here? So like, what do you make of this, Stefan? Like it feels like it's press, but also these are targets that wouldn't, I think, go on these baits anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely for publicity. I think going into it, Haley probably knew there wasn't a chance that Antonio Brown would say yes, but think about this. What if he did? Mm-hmm. Just what if he did? I mean, at bare minimum, he put it all out on the line and said, you know what? I'm coaching this new team in the USFL, and this guy's a free agent, and he's in the news. What's it going to hurt? I mean, the worst that could happen is he makes fun of you on live radio, which it happened. Yeah. I mean, and we're not going to repeat what Mr. Brown said. There was plenty of expletives in his hot take, if you will. But I mean, ultimately, I can't be mad at Todd Haley for reaching out to at least the most newsworthy free agent at the moment. Maybe, you know, he's had one hell of a news cycle, to say the least. And then, like you mentioned, it's one thing to have the proposal to join the FCF, but I mean, if I would have just reported this, nobody would have believed it. But we have ESPN confirming a story that fan-controlled football is currently finalizing a contract for AB to coach in at least one game in season version 2.0 fan-controlled football. So, I mean, maybe had Haley approached it from a coaching perspective, we would have had a different answer here. Maybe not. I don't think I want to watch what I say, but if I were to gamble on it, I would say over 50% of the people probably don't want him in the USFL, but everybody would watch it.
Yeah.
Everybody would tune in.
It would be TV just to the curiosity. I think week one numbers you would see boosted for whichever game he was on for the Bandits when week one comes. But here's what I'll take it, just because following Fan Control Football, they did if you aren't in the know, it's a Fan Control Football is basically an arena, in essence, an arena football league with you calling the plays is how it is. So they do a lot of stuff by votes. On their app, they actually asked you, would you like to see Antonio Brown in the FCF in some capacity? It was much more split than I thought it was going to be. It was at one point, it was really hitting like 55 yes, 45 no. So you could tell that the character that is Antonio Brown definitely puts people off. The antics do it. So if you were to say have that pulled off, say that somehow Todd Haley, with his connection from back in the day when he was coaching as an OC for the Pittsburgh Steelers, happened to work, that's something you're going to have to live with and hope that he's okay with that. Because the NFL, you know, he's talented enough to where you can do that, you know, and he would definitely be for the USFL, but a first-year league does not want any PR nightmares. And people put these alternative leagues under a magnifying glass even more so than the NFL at times. I would argue that the XFL and the USFL, in a public perspective, outside of our alternative communities of football sport, they look at these leagues, any smidge of something moving the needle backwards is magnified 10 times. This would be something that would divide people a ton. It would make TV, but I would worry about the long-term effects if something were to happen mid-season, especially with Haley and AB's history on those teams. Something I don't know how bad blood would happen, but I would worry that might boil over at one point.
I think we've learned that AB has no friends, right? If he's going to throw Tom Brady under the bus, he's going to throw anybody under the bus. So that being said, Additionally, though, and this is funny because I don't think he's a perfect fit for the USFL. I don't hold anything against Haley for trying. We went over that. I do think he is a perfect fit for the Fan Controlled Football League. I don't know. Their fans are, maybe they're split on it now. They're something else. And I love the FCF fans because I'll bring this up time and time again. I love the fans more than I love the league. And I think he'd be a perfect fit. Maybe the FCF fans out there listening to this will disagree. You're wrong.
We'll find out because, I mean, look, you said it best. ESPN, if they're reporting it, that's confirmed. Kevin Seifert, I mean, if you guys aren't following it, like, in terms of the official realms of people that report on, like, spring leagues or news on that, he's kind of the guy that's the, like, stamp check mark for ESPN. So if he's reporting that and he's putting that's in an article, it's happening. So that if you want to see him for at least a game, like they were talking on the Full Send, go right ahead. It's going to happen actually one of these weeks in April because, funny enough, the FCF and the USFL start the exact same day on April 16th. I'm not joking. That just happened to land that way. I'll be doing multi-viewing on multiple screens to keep up with that at some point.
Since you brought that up, I have a question. Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but that's what I do best.
No, please.
Do you think the FCF and USFL playing head-to-head is going to hurt each other?
No. I've seen this question go around. I know why you're asking it. No, because they're not the same and their markets, their audiences to me are so different for how they want to do this. The USFL is clearly leaning on the nostalgia and trying to go for the traditionalist football fan. And the FCF has been, if you follow any of it, it is anything but for the traditional football fan. I would argue that sometimes it spits in the face of a traditional football fan and is looking for like the gamers or like the youth guys that do Twitch all the time. And now they want crypto NFT guys. That's been their shtick. So like, no, these are completely different. And they're also different styles. Like arena and outdoor are completely different audiences even further. They will not compete against each other. The FCF is its own realm. It's just that Antonio Brown happened to be mentioned in the same vein on the same show with both leagues because, of course, you know, the freaking host of the show happens to own part of one of the teams. So, of course, that happens at the same time. It just made funny news and, it ties in. Coach is already getting to work. I'll put that as the spin. That, to me, is what I see it as. You're already reaching out those little feelers for who's going to be in this. That's how I look at it.
And honestly, seeing things like this, you brought up Pat McAfee. We've seen it now with potentially, at least, assuming the text is real, with Antonio Brown.
Sure.
That tells me we are going to see some surprises in the USFL this year. I feel like there's going to be one or two guys that you're going to say, wow, that's pretty dang cool. Beyond the fact that I think we're going to see a lot of guys from the Spring League. I think we're going to see a lot of guys from the XFL from 2020. And ultimately, the coolest part about it to me, just like it was with the AAF and the XFL and even the CFL to a certain extent, is watching the new stars get born. The guys that going into the season you don't know a lot about, but by the end of the season you're like, wow, Cam Phillips, dude. Did you see that catch?
Oh, yeah.
Right? You know? So
that's the beauty of it.
This is why we do this.
Truly.
Right? This is why we do this.
Yes. That's truly the beauty of it. That's what's exciting. I really do wonder what the surprise players could be. Because, I mean, I agree with you. It can't be just that they're happening to, by coincidence, reach out to two somewhat prominent names to see what they can get. You know, it has to be some other people who are getting asked that are like, hey, would you maybe do this for a little more cash than the others? You know, possibly. That's not going to be their main MO, but I'm wondering and thinking now that might be the case. So that's going to get mixed in. And then, you know what? The TSL players, I mean, that was pretty clear. And I think this ties in really to our next point really well, Stefan, is people were asking us a lot. And actually, this is how this kind of got into on Twitter. We do this, some of our tweets, we ask for the last two shows now, we're like, what do you want to hear from us? Because like we of course have topics in mind, but say we miss something and some people, you know, maybe they're even more fans of the league than we are. They'll pick something out and we'll go, okay, I like this topic. And someone did bring this topic up. And I believe it's actually one of the Michigan Panthers podcasts, not the not the Panthers cast
Den,
on our end. Yes, that's just to clarify, because there's Michigan Panthers. It's like, Jesus, they have like a ton of it seems like there's a ton of podcasts.
Let's be honest.
Right
there's
now.
A reason. There's a reason. Yeah. Michigan football. I mean, we have had our ups, kinda, depending on how old you are. Yeah. But we've had a lot of downs.
Some hope. You're hoping it's good. You hope that they get back to the days of the '83 championship, that first USFL season. So I could see it, get an alternative, as you will. So the Panthers Den brought up the question, what are some of the coaches you think will fill in the other 4 teams that we didn't get announced yet? And one of them actually being the Panthers, funny enough. Same goes for the Maulers, so that fills out the North. And then in the South, we're still waiting to hear for the Stallions, funny enough, and the New Orleans Breakers. So they split them 2-2 instead of doing division by division. So we're waiting on the other halves of these divisions to get filled up. And, there's some options out there. Clearly, you can look at, and we'll touch on this for, half of these at least that are in this list. The Spring League has them. Just those connections alone. We've been waiting for some guys that we thought would be announced by now.
Well, and on the head coach level and assistant level, right? There's so many guys that we can pick from there. And we're talking guys, especially in the Spring League, and I think we'll talk about a couple here. They had an experience in both the XFL and the Spring League, and maybe even the AAF in certain instances. But I mean, the first one that comes to mind for me personally, Hal Mummy, right? We saw him in the XFL. Mm-hmm. We saw him in the Spring League. For heck's sake, he won the Mega Bowl. He won the first and maybe last Mega Bowl for the Spring League with the linemen. And I mean, along those same lines, again, looking at assistants or maybe a quarterback coach, Stan Bedwell, my man. I think he at least follows USFL Newsroom, so shout out to you. But I mean, right there, you could pull the whole lineman cast and you'd probably be set, but it looks like they're not going that route. But I mean, thoughts on that, other thoughts on different coaches, maybe in the Spring League, outside the Spring League. What's the first one that comes to mind for you?
Well, I mean, if it's not Hal Mummy, the other one gets thrown around a lot, and I agree fully. Like Jerry Glanville. I mean, he's already been in the XFL and the Spring League. He's coached already in the Spring League for its 2 seasons in that 6-month span. Like, to me, it's another perfect fit. Guy already has, I imagine, a core staff that you can build around. So why not, give him a call? Same as Hal. Hal expressed interest too, that he wants to do this if offered. Jerry, I believe, was the similar vein, if I remember correctly. So just give them a ring and assign these guys to some teams. I would think honestly, you could find, any one of the 4, I don't mind. I thought we're talking about when the first 4 announced how Bart Andrus wasn't on the Generals because we thought we were supposed to be on the Generals because of his coaching time in the TSL. So really just fill those gaps, and pick them up together. Or, to me, there's one that this is more just me looking around and going, oh, this would be kind of cool. Not only for namesake, and then also just because he coached in the state recently. Skip Holtz was fired from Louisiana Tech recently, back in November after his game against Rice. And I don't think he has anything NFL prospect-wise, unless it's college that he's gotten picked up, which I haven't seen anything yet that he's been picked up by any college program. Here's my thought. Dude's already been in Louisiana. You want to get that connection, as we talk about with the hub. It's hard to connect with fans. Why not get a guy that already has been to a school out there, get him in the breakers, and start building some things up. Give him maybe a chance to where he can kind of touch with pro guys. And he also was successful. I know that he was fired recently for a 3-9 season, but the dude did take did take LA Tech to 7 bowl game appearances in 10 seasons. And he's the son of Lou Holtz. Nice talking point for broadcasts. Why not? That's a guy from it's college related too. So that in between connection, I think you got someone.
I think that's a real solid pick. I think that's a real good one. I didn't think about that one, to be honest with you. And honestly, I don't think the recent, season, for the reason of being let go, is going to harm him that much. I mean, Kevin Sumlin, he had some problems in Arizona. He rebounded. Mm-hmm. And he did solid in Texas too. Yeah. So I think he's going to be fine. One bad season doesn't make the coach. Right, unless the coach lets it, right? I mean, that does happen, and even with players too. But I think that's a good fit, and it's a good way to kind of redeem yourself. I think probably a lot of the coaches that we saw going in, well, not a lot, but Pep Hamilton's a great example of looking back at the XFL. Somebody that wanted to go in, just get a little bit more experience, showcase that he has the know-how to run a team, and then move back up. And I think that's a solid pick there. Another one here, and this one I think is kind of a low-key pick that probably a lot of people aren't going to think, that haven't thought about here, but Peter Voss. Again, looking back at the Spring League, this is a guy that he has all sorts of experience. I believe he may have been in the XFL. Was he helping? I could be mistaken there. But
I'll have to do my research.
Not a big deal, but honestly, I think he's a perfect fit for something like this league. Looking at the AAF, this is one that we both shared here, I believe, but Tim Lewis, the former Iron head coach, also the D-backs coach or the defensive backs coach for the Battlehawks. I mean, if we're looking for somebody to run that Birmingham Stallions team, if Chiswick's out the door, which he is now, he's gone. If you were hoping he was there,
he is now.
If you're hoping that contract will get finalized, well, that ship has sailed. Well, I mean, I look at a guy like Tim Lewis, and I mean, he's got a little bit of history with the city, right? So bringing that in, a little bit of history with spring football, bringing that in. And, I mean, he has all sorts of history before that, too, as far as coaching and playing. That, I mean, these are some guys that I'd love to see. And I guarantee you there's going to be guys that are not on, well, I don't guarantee. Don't hold me to that. I think there will be guys that are not on this list that we see in the USFL this year. Not a guarantee. The speculation zone, just because, people hold me to things.
Speculation zone, here we go.
Guarantee is a strong word, and I don't know any of these, so.
So here's a little update with Voss, just to check up. So good connection. Team 9. He was the offensive coordinator for Team 9. You know who was coaching Team 9? Bart Andrews. I'm just saying right now, I think that is another option. And it was funny because the first round of coaching, they only did one TSL coach. So, a lot of the good ones that were in the last season haven't been even, touched yet. So I'm kind of wondering, like, hey, if these guys are interested, I would think that maybe soon. I was hoping, crossing my fingers, that this show we could come on and talk about the next 4 and do like clockwork. But no, we aren't going to get that lucky. It should be no matter what, from what I and you understand is that this month they are going to get them all done. It's just that they're doing it in chunks to do this, as either to give them time for contracts or to, of course, pump up the coaches, do separate announcements, separate social media engagement type of events. So, and for the herd, it also gives them those bonus views. It's coming an inside joke, honestly, that the herd just kind of
we're gonna beat the herd in the ratings USFL. One day. You watch it. It's funny, real quick on the coaches. So I'm gonna change our order up here a little bit here. Sorry, we'll talk about the notes on screen. I don't care. But this does kind of wrap into the Birmingham thing, right? So when we saw the first round of coaches, we got a press release on the coaches, but we also got an announcement that we were 100 days from kickoff, officially announcing April 16th as the beginning of the USFL season. And even earlier the week, we saw a press release around the player incentive or staff incentive as well. This week, we saw the Birmingham City Council approve the USFL to use Legion Stadium for up to 11 games. Now, tinfoil hat speculation zone. Maybe they were waiting to announce the second round of head coaches so they could wrap in some more news. And it would also make sense why we didn't get the Birmingham Stallions coach announcement first. Again, I don't know that this is going to happen, but I do work in marketing. If I were to say, what's a good way to wrap this up? You announce the rest of the 4 coaches. You make the Birmingham Stallions coach the last announcement. Then you officially say, here's where the central hub's going to be for 2022. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get ticket information. I don't think that we will, but maybe a schedule, maybe.
Maybe.
We're getting to the point where it's got to come soon, right? But let's look at this here. So back to what we were talking about with Birmingham here. So Birmingham City Council approves Legion Field. They're also going to include up to $500,000 in funding, and that's via like services and things like that. But I mean, again, you're running a lean machine. They have a plan to keep going for at least 3 years. These are the things that are going to help make that happen. Looking at the XFL, we saw funding similar to this through their broadcast partnerships. USFL is getting money through the broadcast partnerships, but the stadiums are paying for some of these services. I mean, that's clean.
Right.
That's clean.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I like it. And I do want to add on something that is important with why Legion Field now is getting it, because I think some people are asking, like, why is this dragging on? Like, why is it now Legion Field? Because like Protective Stadium has been approved for a while now. Like that was reported by local news outlets in Alabama and in Birmingham already. Well, the two stadiums are run by different entities, so you have to negotiate with each one and talk about how to use them or get the approval for each one. Where Protective Stadium is run by the Birmingham Jefferson County or Jefferson Civic Center Authority, Legion Field is run by the city of Birmingham itself. So you have to get both of them on board. And that's probably two different processes, which is why now we're seeing the second part of it. And it's funny because Legion Field's really a secondary overflow stadium. It's not even going to be the primary one. It's got the history, but they want Protective Stadium because it's the nice, fancy, new bells and whistles place that UAB just got built for itself to move out of Legion Field. So yeah, they needed to get the overflow and also for practice facilities because they're using Legion for that too. Now we just are waiting for them to officially announce it via their social channels, I'll reiterate how I've said it on Twitter by now. Let's get this damn thing done already so we can stop joking around. We've been talking about this since October. Let me see an official post, please. It's got to be about time now. You have both of them signed up.
And they've kind of confirmed it already via their job listings, right? Like it's not a secret. I will say it's funny. I did get a comment on USFL Newsroom, the website, earlier today, asking where the season's going to be held. And I was like, oh, my God, there is somebody that doesn't know. I gladly told them, sign them up. But, so, I mean, there will be people that are going to say, oh, wow, it's all in Birmingham. But most of the people, I mean, if not like a major majority of the people following the USFL, they know where it's going to be. I'm still excited to hear the announcement because, there's probably going to be, maybe there's going to be some extra goodies in there. Maybe we'll see some like fan engagement events or like a tailgate event to kick it off. Again, speculation zone. This is not anything we've heard, but it would be cool to say, hey, we're doing this. We have these sponsors, maybe like a Bud Seltzer or something of the like gets in the mix and throw some kind of like, here's an inaugural weekend party. Again, I don't know if that is feasible. I'll say this. If, and hopefully we do have a chance to make it to opening weekend, if there's not an official tailgate, come hang out with the ref and Zach because we're going to be partying. That's for sure. Yeah.
I mean, you say speculation, so and I say, yeah, speculation, but with reality in mind because, it's a hub format and I'm going to assume that, they're going to be selling tickets to this, either way. It is a made-for-TV product, but people are going to be there. So what are you doing there? Or maybe they don't, because here's the other side of that equation. They've been bare bones about it. Maybe they just sell the tickets, do it season one because it's already in crunch anyway. We had less than a year prep that they're doing this from announcement to start. So maybe they just say, screw it, year one, we focus on TV. Year two is all the extracurricular stuff like a draft televising it or something. Or like, say, get more fan engagement type of events. I don't know. Again, all this is up for debate, but, you can look at the track record of the USFL. Maybe that's the flip of the coin is like, maybe they don't do it. Maybe it's just you show up, you can do what you want, but we're not going to, we're focused on the TV first to prove our deal with NBC
I'll say
as
this.
well. So
I'll say this. At the Mega Bowl, the Spring League Mega Bowl, there was a tailgate. I was amazed. I was a little bit surprised, but there was people out there. They had their tents. They were drinking, partying, having a good time. I guarantee you there will be a tailgate of some sort. If there's a football game, somebody's showing up and having a drink or a barbecue outside before the game. That's just facts. That's like science.
Well, Well, if we're organizing
Sign
it, I
me
mean
up.
that there's your
But
first one right there. So
yeah, I mean,
that whatever
sign
week
us up.
that is.
If it's something official from the league,
Matter.
even sweeter. But if not, we'll make something happen at some point.
Right. Well, long story short, it's got to be close now, guys. Like that now that you have both the stadiums that were being talked about having approval from both the different governing bodies of them, it's got to be soon this month. Like January is supposed to be this massive month, and I know this week we did kind of really light to nothing at all in terms of like stuff from them, but they got to have it by the end of the month is what's going on. So, stuff is going to come down the pipeline sooner rather than later, and we'll see. We will see. I mean, they're promoting already via Fox.
Before we get to that,
I can tell you have anticipation. Yeah, I was gonna say I can tell you have anticipation.
It's more of a question. It's more of a question. I like this. I want to do some quick predictions. You and I, we're gonna do some gambling on this. Maybe $1 or Sprite or something.
Not a betting man, but I will do my best.
Okay, we're looking at the calendar.
See how this turns out.
So anywhere between the 14th and the 31st. I have a date in my head. So I'll even just tell you. I'll tell you mine first, or you can tell me yours first. But I'll tell mine first if you want.
Okay.
I think, man, it's a shame because I actually have two dates in my mind, so I have to choose one. I'm gonna go rather than a Thursday like we got it last time. I think we're gonna get it a Tuesday. That's first. I don't know why. I'm just again speculation zone, and I think we're gonna get it next week. I think so. I'm gonna say the 18th. When do you think you're gonna get it? We'll get it here, and this will be a fun game to see who gets closer.
Now clarifying, this is the stadium we're talking about, or is this the coaches again?
Let's do the stadium. Yeah,
it's important. This is important stipulation. Yes. You have to think about that. The stadium. All right. Tell you what, I'm gonna say that they wait and they do coaches first, then official announcement on the stadium. So I think they're gonna drop it. I'm going to say Wednesday, January 26th. They'll do it then. They'll do a teaser on Tuesday, or maybe they don't. Maybe this is one of those things they just drop it flat out, say, hey, this is a thing. Because there's already enough out there. They can just drop it and say, by the way, now it's like official. I think they wait, do the coaches within the next week coming up. I think that happens next week, late, and then you do the stadium. Again, this is my predicted plan. Nothing concrete that we know of. So my guess, but they only have 2 more full weeks in January. So it's got to happen within these 2 full weeks that both those things happen. I would think.
It's a shame too, because I would have changed my date to the 25th had I put that thought in my head that it's not guaranteed to come with the coaches, but I'll stick with it. So we have the 18th and the 26th. Right. Let's see what happens. I mean, this will be fun. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more of these throughout the season, but I mean, the big deal is, right, realistically, every time they make one of these announcements, more people learn about the league. I see it in my feed. I'm sure you see it in your feed on social media. But speaking of new people learning about the league, I mean, ever since Thursday Night Football, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, Fox has hit the gas pedal with promos for the league during every NFL broadcast that they've aired since, including 2 new promos this past weekend. What did you think of the new promos?
They're nice. I know that I was one of those people first off in the first round when they released the no more football. I stopped for a second and I went, wait, what are they trying to imply? And I know that they're implying something that I joke about and how I'm like, I actually talk to my friends and I go, football's not over, guys. Like, let's be frank. Like, I'm that dude that's like at the end of the NFL season when most people are like, well, now we got to wait till fall. I'm like, excuse me, there's arena and indoor leagues. You got like this, that. And they're like, and that my friend's like, we just shut up. And I'm like, no, but no, I got that one. So, okay. Some people got confused. These recent 2 I really liked. The ruling on the field one, picking up the flag, that one was pretty cool. Someone pointed out that was taken at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. You could see Jack Lambert's number, the Hall of Fame numbering, at least on the side borders of the stadium. And then I really liked the other one where it was where it was the snap count one, spring football, hut hike, like that. That one I think was cool because it's just an action shot, but it also got people talking because again, they showed off their first commercial promo. They showed off a football. And we were wondering, is
Exactly.
this the USFL football? Is it a render? And now they showed another one. Similar star structure, the league logo on the side.
It's got to be.
I don't know, man. Now it's starting.
It's got to be. I mean,
it is the football.
Why would you make two promos for a league that shows a football that you don't plan on using? Where the design, I would get it if it was stock, right?
Right.
If for whatever reason it was. Okay, fine. Two commercials now. And again, talking about the football, I love it because it's a nice throwback to the original, except for you're adding a little bit of color, but with the addition of the stars at the tip of the ball. One of the things, I thought that was one of the coolest things with the XFL, how they had the X on the tip. So this is, I think it's awesome. I hope they sell these footballs. I assume if they do, Big Game USA will be manufacturing them. I hope they do. They're the ones that made the XFL football. They made the Spring League ball. I see no other real option out there. I mean, yes, there's other options, but I mean, Big Game makes a good quality product. I don't have a Spring League ball, but I do have an XFL ball over there. But
I would say another Team Issue is a good company too. They did the last iteration of the Arena Football League version of their football. I wouldn't mind seeing them get into the fray. Maybe they do. I believe you might be right on that. I could be redundantly. I might be redundant.
Well, I have.
I'm being redundant.
I have the XFL wallet over there. Did you even know that was a thing? Okay.
No, I did know that was a thing. That is funny. That is very obscure of a product. So I find that hilarious. You're bringing that up again. I do remember, and actually, I am taking that back. Yeah, Team Issue is the one that. On their website, they would advertise and sell the ball. So yes, it's the same company. But to reiterate how they are doing great with these leagues. So like they did the AFL one, then they transferred into the XFL one. I mean, they're going to do these. I mean, heck, you can argue that maybe they reestablished that connection for the XFL whenever we talk about that in a little more detail. So they make some good quality stuff like that. That would be one I'd love to see them do. And the football looks nice. I like the star pattern. And plus receivers love those little marks on the edges. It makes it easier for them to do the diamond. That's the technique. Everybody get your hands together. The football's edge gets in between your hands, and then you're able to grasp it firmly. Get that catch with both hands.
Well, you bring up a good point. You bring up like an excellent point. Is I think that it helps the game by them adding those features for this style of play. Like the NFL, I get it. They shouldn't need it there. I do like it here in something like, again, the XFL, the Spring League, or the USFL. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, even in the arena leagues, like the IFL and the NAL, I don't bring up a lot of arena in this show, but, we're talking football. They have the same thing. They have, like, basically, the NAL's got these, like, arrow marks, and same goes for the IFL. There's different styles, but, to each league their own. So the stars are kind of that, and it follows their pattern of, what they used back in the day. Nostalgia, the stars, they're tied in with the USFL and all their branding from back then, and somewhat now are looking like they're going to be like that too.
Me too.
If that's the ball,
man, it's funny how this whole conversation was supposed to be about the promos, and it turned into just about the ball. Yes, the ball was in the promo. This just shows how excited we are to see the ball. And I mean, there's one guy online. You know who I'm talking. I don't even have to say anymore. Seth Lessons. Oh, you know he's waiting for the day. I'll say this. If anyone at the USFL is watching and you want to gain a fan for life, send Seth Lessons a football. Send us one too, but send him one as well because, I mean, he's got everything. I've never seen a dude have so many cool original, authentic, rare footballs than this guy has. I don't know how he finds them.
I mean, you want to talk about USFL, like just to give him his recent, like one of his most recent purchases and I'm following him online too. He's got the 1986 USFL game ball that was supposed to be an experimental football. And for those that it's like 1986, okay, what's the big deal? Well, remember they didn't play in 1986. They had to, kind of, closed doors. That was the ball plan for the fall season of that year.
Yeah.
Never came to be. So that shows you like dude's serious about his footballs. Like he is a diehard collector. And we're going to see it no matter what. Like even with after the renders or whatever, the pictures, he's going to get one of those
second,
things.
He'll be order number one. Right. So back to the promos real quick. Because I looking forward, right? So this weekend is the beginning of the NFL playoffs, right? We have games on Fox and NBC. Clearly, I think we're going to see Fox continue to show promos. We haven't seen NBC show any promos yet. Will we? They're right. Keep in mind, everybody, they are broadcasting the Super Bowl this year. So there's that. But I don't know. Do you think we get any in the playoffs?
Now, I'm going to bring up how this came to be, because this was a tweet that was sent out via the USFL podcast account that we handle. And it was one of those things like you and I were curious. We're like, okay, let's see what people think about this. Like, because Fox has been doing their part. They already own the league majority wise. So of course they're going to put them out, but NBC bought into the league for broadcast rights. So in theory, they have a stake in this, and they bought the rights. They didn't, they're not just letting you play on their network. They are paying Fox to do this. So in theory, they have an incentive to promote this entity that they're going to be playing in the spring. Also that they don't have NHL games and they are losing some sports rights. This is kind of a new thing they're adding in. We put that down. We saw, we saw some people like, oh yeah, this makes complete sense. And then we got into some people debating about like, no, this ain't going to happen. They don't have enough incentive or enough backing into it. And I'm like, man, I think they will, because of the fact that recent track record that NBC's had with retaining some sports to broadcast. Their sports lineup is not very mainstream. They have a different skew. They like a lot of the obscure Olympic sports, as well as, of course, soccer with Premier League, and they do IndyCar as well. And then, they don't have basketball. They lost hockey. NBC Sports Network shut down now. I mean, to me, this all adds up to saying like, hey, this is a new thing for us. We're going to put a promo out or promos at some point. And I think with the Super Bowl as well, it's the best time to do it. You have the entire driver's seat. You don't have to pay for that ad space. You just have to give up potential money for the ad space is the only thing. So I guess in theory, you are losing cash out, but also if you make money off of the USFL at some point down the line from the TV aspect, that's the hope. It gets that spurt, because you're going to air a good chunk, if not half of these football games anyway.
For sure.
You're invested. You got to do it then. At least at the Super Bowl
or your wild card. I think we get a Super Bowl ad. At minimum. I think it would be very strange for us not to see an ad during the Super Bowl. Again, let's look back at the past. Let's look at 2019 and 2020. We saw an ad for the AAF, right? People think about the XFL was like hot potatoes compared to the AAF. So the AAF getting a spot is one thing. The XFL got a spot. I mean, it would only make sense. Again, I don't know if they're going to, but I almost feel like the answer has to be yes there. I could see them skipping the playoffs leading up to it. And I'll say this. The main reason is because unlike the XFL, they're not playing right after the Super Bowl. Right. And so, but at minimum, we'll get this. I think months. It has to be. I think we almost have to see an ad during the Super Bowl. Now, another question for you, though. Another question. Last week, final week of the NFL playoffs, or the NFL regular season, excuse me, we saw Fox, again, showing the promos. They brought out 2 new promos. Do we get new promos for the playoffs?
Good question. And that would happen to me. So whereas NBC, to me, it's at minimum the Super Bowl. They have to wait till then. Fox is most likely, to me, would do it during the NFC Championship game when they will be hosting that. And they'll get a sizable audience because the NFC actually is a really good broadcast deal for them. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them because they already dropped another round. I didn't think they'd drop another round because of just I don't know. I'll give it that. They've been bare bones. People have been saying it. I'll put it out there. They've been kind of trying to do this as economically cut and dry as possible. So they put out a second round. Now I'm kind of thinking, okay, some person over in LA or whatever group is in LA working on this stuff for them is it out of the possibility they could? No. I mean, dude, they can put out a third one. They got to have some other footage that they can slap together and then at the end put that same glimmer effect USFL logo.
I mean, it's a 10-second ad.
Oh, yeah. I would not be shocked. No, I wouldn't be shocked. Just put it as a bumper again. They'll do it the same way. It'll be a 10-second bumper unless for some reason they hold out and they do like a 30-second for the heck of it. That's the one I think everyone's waiting for, is like the longer form, like, this is what this is all about. Yeah. 8 teams, all in Birmingham, Alabama, of made-for-TV product just for you. Smash Mouth football, like something like that. They'll wait for the long. But these are all like build-ups. Like I think even like you've seen execs like Eric Shanks, I think's commented, if I remember right, on Twitter. Someone asked about that, or whoever Connor Folk contacted and recently a few weeks back. He asked about the promos. And they're like, it's a build-up. So to me, it's got to build up to something bigger. These are hints. Right now, I want the explanation one. And
maybe we're lucky that will be the NFC Championship game, or I mean, for the league, it would be huge if they got that build up one in the Super Bowl, like a good 30-second ad during the Super Bowl. I mean, I couldn't even tell you how much money that's worth. 10 seconds is worth more than I'll ever own in my life anyway, but 30 seconds, I mean, so I mean, we're getting so close to so many fun things, right? We picked the perfect time to start this podcast, I swear. If we did this, I mean, we could have started it back in October, and we would have been limping along with some stuff. But now we're right in the mix of things. We got the rapid fire announcements. We have all sorts of things going on, and I mean, I'm loving it. I don't know about you.
It's because because they got to hit. We know now because we knew they got to hit the gas now. It's 2022. Stuff's going to be starting to fly around. So. Yeah, thank God it's now hitting this time, because I imagine, Jesus Christ, the slog it would have been between, say, mid-November, late November to now. I mean, that was a dead period. People ebb and flow with this league just on the few announcements because of their social media game being so weak. Because you see, like, they go like a week now without something. Even the coaches just being last week now, I've seen some people go, I lose faith in this day by day. I'm like, you do? Like, Jesus, I know they're not really talking as often as you want, but man, that's day by day already. And we're talking less than a week. People were saying that. I'm like, the patience.
I mean, you'll see that everywhere, though. We see that with the XFL community. I mean, I get why this time around. It's been a long wait, but even in 2019 and the lead up to 2020, I remember same thing. I'm losing hope. They don't even have logos. Where are the coaches? And I mean, for all intents and purposes, other than the illness that we shall not name coming and taking over, it was a success, right? And so I wouldn't, again, if you're one of those fans that's kind of on the edge, here's all I ask. Give it 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Pick a game each week even. Maybe not all the games. Pick a game for 3 weeks, because then you'll start to see. Because the first week, I'm not going to lie, the first week in any of these leagues, even the NFL, if you look at the preseason, you have the potential for, these guys haven't played together, right? They have to gel. Things happen. I mean, what was it? What was the guy's name? Burkatozy? What was the guy that got creamed in that first AAF game?
Oh, that was
Burkavici.
Oh my God, Burkavici.
I mean, we might see something like that. Not going to lie. But if you give it to that third week, once these teams start gelling together, that's the thing that really kills me about the XFL. We were at the point where, again, the Battlehawks were turning, they were really coming into their own. The Roughnecks were like a force to be reckoned with. The Defenders, if it wasn't for that damn Sonic movie, who knows, right?
And we were one red zone play away from overtime too. Keep that in mind. That was week 5 as well. That barn burn with the Vipers and the LA Wildcats.
That game
in LA. I mean, that's the thing. Like you hope that, like, I agree with, because like that's a pattern now. Like the AAF and the XFL, like there were, there's mixed at the beginning, but it's once you get going, you start moving and rolling in motion, snowballing it into these teams gelling at their best at the end of the year. That's what we want to get to, and I think that in particular, as we've mentioned, I think on here, if not, you and I have talked off this, the fiscal way they're doing it to focus on the TV first with managing the cost, it would take a lot to me to assume that they would not get through a whole season now, because of the fact that
we would need to see something catastrophic happen.
Why.
Because I feel like even if we saw a repeat to a certain extent of what we saw in 2020, they have that situation covered. I mean, all of a sudden, then nobody's allowed in the stadium. All of the groups, you're stuck in your hotel. Sorry, you got 4 more weeks. But there's no plane travel. There's none of that you really have to worry about. I'll be amazed. And quite honestly, don't we deserve a flipping full year of spring football? I mean, we got it with fan-controlled football. But, I mean, nothing against them. I'm talking non-arena-esque, whatever you want to bucket them as. We deserve a flipping full year of spring football. And, God, come on. Fox, USFL, bring it to us. I feel like we're so close. You know what? Maybe I'm a jerk because I'm forgetting about the spring league. They did, the first one was a little, but the second one, they did make it the whole year with the championship. So
they did. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, you talk about that first one, how it's like, well, we cancel it. Now we're doing the championship game. And then you're like, and then you hear about stuff behind the scenes. You're going, okay. And that's what brings into we talked, like Brian Woods, of course, runs this, and, people have their own opinion from stuff from that. I'm going to leave it at that. We can have another conversation another time on that, because that could be deeper. What I do want to, of course, talk is, and this is a point that, is being brought up. We're seeing a divide on like XFL versus USFL guys. It's expected. It's in its early stages, because the fact that the XFL is now going to start doing announcements, it sounds like by February is what it's sounding like. The USFL is doing its own. For a little bit in December and early January, they were kind of trading off like little bits of information, almost like an info war of a way. So, here's a hypothetical that we have down for our show today. Would the USFL still kick off in April if the XFL wasn't planning on a February launch? Say the XFL said, you know what? We'll take the delay. We'll go in April. Does the USFL then rush it? I think they wouldn't, because of the competition, and now you're really crunching.
Either that, or we would have seen them do some of the things they're doing now earlier, right? I'll say this. And
True.
Maybe I'm off here. Again, this is speculation zone. This is not anything I've heard or know. But let's say, and I don't think this is necessarily going to happen, but let's say the XFL comes out next year. They play, for whatever reason, they're not in 2024. At minimum, the USFL considers it. At minimum, they consider it, and maybe they don't do it right away. And I quite honestly, I see the benefits for both, right? I see the benefits for going right after the Super Bowl, because it's habit. Some people are going to be there the next week, not know what to do, flip on the TV and see football and say, oh my God, look at this new thing. Whereas if you let it sit for a couple months, those same people, they might be out mowing their lawn or watching baseball and not even know. But I do see giving the time to wait and letting that angst build a little bit, and I think that's going to definitely bode in their favor this year. But down the line, I could see them, considering the situation or whatever happens, I could see them putting it up for consideration.
Possible. I think right now, obviously the two competing, I think this was a good way of doing it, keeping out of each other's, at least crosshairs, if you want, because I think both of them, I know that nothing's been publicly said, but you have to admit, because they're in the same realm, they're acknowledging each other's existence and funding and going, I see what you're doing. We're keeping an eye, somewhat a peripheral vision type of eye, but we're not looking directly at you, but we know you're there. We what's happening on the other end. So I think right now it was best to do that. I also would argue something longer term, because in the 3-year plan, the idea is year 1 hub, year 2 max 4 teams are in their markets. By year 3, everyone's got to be in their markets. So think about the teams in the North, Pittsburgh, Michigan. Those are not spring markets in February. Those would be god awful. I mean, we've talked to a length off show on the Salt Lake Stallions, and that and how that went down it wasn't even that far north. It was just, they happen to be, it gets cold in that mountainous region in Salt Lake City. So you have to be able to go and get some sort of fan support. I would say optics and TV for these leagues are very important. People do comment on this stuff. Again, hypercritical is the casual fan that watches these leagues and then instantly compares to the NFL, even though it's not supposed to be a competitor. You see less fans because of the weather, it gets dinged. I don't like seeing that. I understand why they do it, because they're never everyone's a diehard fan, but it does irk me because I'm going, what did you expect? But I think just for that optic too, and getting more people butts and seats as the secondary gravy to your television deal, I think that helps, especially for Northern markets. New Jersey as well, by the way, Philadelphia. Like, they're all four of these are, if you start in February, snow risk cities and areas. April was perfect because that mitigates it almost fully. I know someone said that Pittsburgh does get snow sometimes in April, but I feel that's very rare. It's more just going to be a little colder and rainy, but that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the weather thing I think is a good point, because again, I'm from Michigan, and I can't imagine enjoying myself watching a football game outside in Michigan. That is to say, maybe they get something like a Ford Field, but I would hate. I really. Well, in certain instances, sure, go for the bigger stadiums and things like that. But looking back at the XFL with the New York Guardians, I mean, some stadiums are just too big. You're not going to fill them unless the tickets are like dirt cheap. And I mean, the weather's good. And I mean, so yeah, bringing that up to April. So maybe the first month's a little sketch. It can be a little sporadic in some of those lake states, but by the time you get to May, June, sign me up all day and night. July could be a little sticky, but I mean, I don't think there's anywhere that you can have a perfect stretch of year, right?
I mean, by summertime, I mean, people go to baseball games. It's a summer passion. Like, you can go to a football game in the summer. I mean, that's fine. You know, everyone talks about more the front of the schedule when it's colder. You know, that's where April fits in perfectly for most of the country. It's just like, that fits really nice in that aspect. I'm not talking about the broadcasting ranges and everyone competing on broadcast, but if you're eventually down the road to year 2, year 3, and you're getting people's butts in seats and you have a northern market that gets bought, that helps you a ton. So I think that answers my question, where I'm saying, yeah, this is, I mean, if it's not competing, they do April, but I almost argue that maybe you do that just for the sake of, you know, all the northern cities you picked out from the original. You stuck with the nostalgia route, thus you also kind of buried yourself with picking northern cities in that original run that already are going to get colder if you started in February, which the original USFL, by the way, started in April anyhow, so it fits the original run of the 80s iteration of this league.
Yeah, you know, I like the April start. I think it's a good thing to ponder. I think people online have probably speculated on that as well. But at minimum, like I said, all things are pointing to XFL and USFL going back to back next year. Sign me up. I'm super glad they're not competing head to head. I think that would be silly for either one of them to do. What'll be interesting to see, and what we should probably start seeing this soon, is what do the USFL contracts look like? Do they do a 2-year, which essentially snuffs out the XFL from getting those guys? If I remember correctly, the AAF tried that, at least with some of their guys, not all of them maybe, but I mean, to me, it feels like, why not? And it probably, I would assume it won't be every player, but maybe when you start getting to those tier 1 guys, hey, we do have a 2-year option if you want.
I mean, those we talked to, it's rumblings. Again, I say this
speculation
is
zone.
Rumor, you know, speculation zone, whatever you want to call it, is that, you know, this month is also going to be that contract type of talk coming up at some point. So take that with a grain of salt, but people keep saying it, so I'm going to bring that up as a thing in here. You can then start debating on that on the side. It's going to happen. I mean, I want to see that too. You know, we all want to know the numbers. Some people, we're going to have debates on the numbers. We've been doing that for a while. We all know what the XFL's base number was. I think that's kind of the benchmark anyway, is people's like, well, does it hit that 50K mark? And it's like, I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, they're saving bucks on one end, so you, in theory, think that they can push it into players' salaries. But
yeah,
I digress. Like, we don't have.
It's one of those things too.
Yet,
it's not worth even speculating on the amount until we know, because that one, it's such a touchy one. And honestly, if you're wrong, it could hinder the league, right? So, I mean, we'll find out sooner or later. And I'm sure we'll as more players start getting contacted for this player selection, trust me, somehow, some way, news will get out. It always does. It won't stop. That's just the true matter of the fact there. But I mean, we talked about a lot. What do you thinking? It's about mailbag time?
I was just about to say, let's do some fan questions. We pushed this one hard. We said, hey, we're going to answer your fan questions by mailing us at mailbag@usflcast.com.
Get it right, my man.
Or, let me rephrase that, mailbag@usflcast.com. Thank you very much. This is why we have co-hosts, as we get to double check ourselves. Or, and I know this one is for sure because we have one from each of these, or you can do it where you comment on our podcast episode. We look over the comments, we pick out some of the best ones, we drop it there. Or, and we'll highlight this in a later upcoming bit, where we have possible voicemail coming along the way on the website. I saw this the other day. Is it simply, I'm just going to ask you for this, is it simply you just click it?
Straight up. Yeah, if you're on mobile, laptop, tablet, desktop, whatever, it doesn't matter what device, you click the button, it's going to prompt you to allow it to use your microphone. But it's just, you leave a little message. I think it lets you go up to like 30 seconds or a minute or something like that. And it shoots it right to our mailbag at USFLcast email. So if you want to leave a voicemail, sign you up. It's over at USFLcast.com. Again, if you want to learn everything about the USFL podcast, bookmark USFLcast.com. The second new episodes drop, they're there. The new clips, they're there. The form for the mailbag, the email for the mailbag, and now the voicemail for the mailbag. Sign you up at USFLcast.com.
You got 3 ways to do it. We're going to read over a few of those that did get sent in from this first show. And one of them is from a fan of just many of our shows, honestly. I love talking to this gentleman, David Kislinski, and I hope I pronounced that right, by the way. I'll probably get some clarification, but it's Kislinski is how I am reading it phonetically. He writes a question that I find intriguing for us, and it's a hypothetical. In theory, if we had a chance, if one of us could sit down with Daryl Johnston, who is the vice president of football operations for the USFL, for 30 minutes, what would you ask him about the upcoming season?
That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. I mean, so one thing that we did see, again, to talk about our favorite show on Fox or FS1, The Herd, earlier this week, Daryl Johnston was on there, and he was actually at an event scouting for the league, right? So, I mean, this early on, I'll probably defer to that. I want to know what types of players they're looking for, right? Like, we've heard that they're looking for, like, a younger crowd. But we've also seen them potentially reach out to Pat McAfee and Antonio Brown. And I want to kind of get the ins and the outs of what they're scouting, what they're actually doing there. I mean, one thing that the league has been very quiet about is the technique and the procedures that they're using to find these players. And I find that intriguing. And clearly he's right there on the front line of that if he's at an event scouting for the league. Additionally, I mean, I would love to learn more about expansion, their plans for the future. I mean, that's a big one, right? Right out the gate when they announced that he was going to be coming in the league as an executive, he joined a talk show. I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head, but he straight up mentioned by year 3, they may expand. He specifically brought up San Antonio as a market. So clearly I got to pick his brain on that. I want to know, is that speculation zone, or is that something that may actually be in this 3-year plan? If they hit a certain number by year 2, year 3, are they going to work towards that? I mean, to me, that's why we do these things. I love to get the little nitty gritties and the what ifs prior to it being official. So, I mean, that's my initial take, but I'm curious, what about you?
Yeah, my thing leans into kind of his past affecting what you learn moving into this iteration of another alternative league. For those that aren't in the know or don't remember, Daryl Johnston was heavily involved with the San Antonio Commanders in the Alliance of American Football. That was his team that he was managing. And I think that to me is what fascinated me when he got hired was that you're taking a person that not only works for Fox often and is in their wheelhouse, but somebody that has been around the block, saw what it takes to make something go sideways fast, and now is in, I mean, football operations, of course, it's more about, the quality of play and things like that. But you have that expertise to say, like, okay, this is what I saw on this level. These are things we could do better. Like, I'd be asking, like, so what did you take from this to help build this iteration of another spring league? Because everyone asks about, like, why is this one going to work this time? What makes it change? For the last 3 years, we have seen two leagues come and go for different reasons. The AAF in particular, of course, has one part, but everyone has a different talk on why something did or didn't work. I'd like to hear how lessons from what he learned there could take and be put into the USFL here. And then I think on your vein too, just who are you scouting out? I know we've heard in kind of like an NFL scouting seminar, football scouting seminar, just like Brian Woods mentioning offhand some aspects of players they're looking for. But I imagine some other people in that building, based on, who works for what or used to work for what, have different takes. Like, I imagine Daryl Johnston, being a football person that he is, someone that played the game and has been in those offices, has a different appeal on what players he's looking for. So those two things, I would love to get. I would easily get 30 minutes.
That
out of
first topic alone, probably. I mean,
questions.
he's got both the AAF and the XFL, and then that tie-in with Fox. I mean, yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of lessons you learned at minimum from the AAF. Man, I heard some stories, which I won't tell because I think it actually involves Daryl Johnston. So I'm not off air. Sorry, guys. I'll tell you that story.
Hidden pause.
No, we'll wait till after the show. Sorry, Zach. You're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Sorry, fans, for even putting it out there that I know something funny. But, that's what we do. Sometimes with that insider knowledge, you got to be careful with how much you say, because the people that tell you the stories, you'll learn they don't necessarily like it when you repeat some of these things. It's not a bad story. Hold on. Let me just say, it's not a bad story. It's a funny story. And it's not embarrassing, but I don't have permission to tell it. So, sorry, guys. I think we've touched on that subject, but we do have another mailbag. And this one, again, this is from our YouTube. So, and Zach, you're more of a podcast guy than I am. Can people comment on our like audio podcasts? Is that a thing?
I think it really depends on the platform. That's kind of it. Like, you really can't do it on Spreaker or Spotify or any of those. You can leave reviews, by the way, which we would love review. We would love Apple, like iTunes reviews, which we ask that right now. You can leave that in there if you want. But not really. The only one I can think you can do that is, I believe, like Breaker, which is more like a social meets podcasting, or like Pod Chaser as well. But yeah, it's not really a thing there. YouTube is definitely, if you want to do it for the show, I would definitely do it there, or send us an email or leave a voicemail. Again,
we got a lot of options. We got a lot of options.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, this one's from YouTube. Michael Ayers is his name. And what players would you like to see in the USFL?
I mean, again, I'm going to pull two easy ones. Maybe I'm cherry picking here from the Spring League and to a certain extent the XFL. The first one, Luis Perez. I think he's a perfect fit. Former bowling champion. I mean, if you don't know that, go look up Luis Perez bowling highlights. The dude's a stud. He's got a couple 300 games, I'm pretty sure. At least one. He's got at least one 300-point game, which, if you don't know, that's a perfect game. That's a perfect game in bowling. And another little known fact, he taught himself how to play football by watching YouTube. I love that. I think that's amazing. But either way, I think he'd be great. Another one, again, I think we talked about him in the year-end special, or maybe the first episode. Ryan Willis, MVP of the Spring League, quarterback for the linemen, Mega Bowl champion. I would love to see him. I think the dude has all the ingredients to be a stud. maybe needs just 1 or 2 more years to showcase those skills. But, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me. But I do know if you look at his stats in the spring league compared to the number 2 guy, he is like so far ahead of him in passing yards and touchdowns. And
oh, yeah.
I mean, he was the PJ Walker of the spring league. And again, he's with the Bears practice squad now. But I think there's plenty of time for him to end up in the USFL this April. I hope so. I hope to see it. Those are 2. And again, maybe I'm cherry picking with the easy picks and the quarterbacks, but you have a much better mind for this than I do. So I know you're going to have some much better names than I do. Maybe. We'll see.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I mean, there's some that I want to see just from spring league as well, or just from even that are XFL spring league guys. Like I know that he's been around the block already, but like I would love Brandon Silvers to be back. You know, I know some people were very, at least in his tenure with the Dragons, they were very divisive about his time in at least playing when JT Daniels was trying to get his time in to shine. But I think that he'd be a nice fit. You know, if we're talking quarterbacks too, like I wouldn't mind seeing like for example, a Vad Lee or, you know, Brian Lewerke again come in there. If Reese Horn is available for receivers, by the way, really good lineman receiver in that championship roster, I would love to see him in there. Also, ex-Memphis Express player too, who played with Silvers, funny enough. So wouldn't mind that too. Vinny Papal, you know, as well. Vince Papal's kid. I would love to have him back in there. Just again, the name recognition, that's a broadcast element. They talked about it in TSL. I would do it again, you know, and it's someone that was talented on the Gladiators as well this past spring season. I wouldn't say that's a bad choice either. Yeah, I mean, just kind of look at those rosters. I know that seems like it's like, God, well, you can't just all look at the TSL rosters. I'm like, yeah, true, but a lot of those guys were good, and a lot of them still are open for availability, and we're keeping connections and close ties to that. I will say that there are a few guys in Arena I'm like, I would love to see too. And I know one of them just signed a contract with the Albany Empire as of this recording for the NAL, but Darius Prince, I mean, dude is a stud in the Arena leagues. Dude has been able to go to the NFL for some chances. I would love to he was in the AAF actually too. Would love to see him get another shot in an outdoor league. The guy has been tearing apart indoor leagues now for multiple years. He's still 31, and I know that we talk about youth first. It sounds like with the USFL, has that been the talk? But I think that he would be, you know, if he wanted to opt out of his NAL contract and got a good deal with the USFL in that player pool, you should go for him. I think he would be a really good asset to any one of the 8
people forget there was a lot of guys in the AAF and the XFL that played Arena. I think we'll see a lot of guys from Arena playing in the USFL as well. You know, people just Arena is one of those weird ones that some people like just don't even know exists, which is a shame because it's such a when it's good, it's so fun. When it's good, it's like, I mean, you could have 65 to 72 point games, right? Like they're crazy, man. So
it truly is like its own separate entity, even though it's football. It's weird. It's so weird how they're different communities, but they are still at its core the same sports concepts that we love. So there are guys in those leagues, I imagine, like they get a shot. And even, you know, I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to risk anything, but there's been like 1 or 2 already that I'm like, oh, hey, you know, that they've claimed that they are in the pool. You know, there's that talk. Are they or are they not? I'm going to bank on their agents saying that they are, but, you know, they're in the pool and they're guys in Arena. I'm like, hey, these are good guys you're getting here, you know? So some names I'll be like giddy because I love some of these people from those leagues. But yeah, hopefully, Michael, that clarifies a few things. If you're watching or listening to this show, those are some players you should definitely look out for, I would say. So I think that really kind of covers.
It's a big show. I think we actually went on longer than we did for the first show. And it seemed like we had so much more to talk about the first week. I think that we're just like, again, we were talking about, give it 1 to 2, maybe 3 weeks with the USFL. You and I are starting to gel together as well. I know you are a man of many podcasts, and I am a madman online, but I'm not generally a co-host having kind of person. So I wasn't, honestly, I probably told you it was going to be perfect and spectacular and all those things. I really didn't know. I didn't know what we were getting into. But the banter, the back and forth has been pretty smooth so far. It seems like the folks online seem to agree. Speaking of which, if you're online, which you have to be, if you're watching us or listening to us here, make sure you're following us, and you can follow us personally over at The Ref Says and at Grid Gallery Pod, as well as at Zach Kyleman. Plus,
there you go.
Make sure you're following that podcast at USFL Podcast on all social media platforms, including YouTube. So if you didn't know, you can just go to youtube.com/USFL Podcast. If you're on YouTube, there's one thing I asked. Click the bell. It builds morale to click the bell. It's going to make you feel so much better. If you woke up with a hangover, click the bell. Instant remedy. If you're having a bad day, a good day, and you just want to solve it, click the bell. Zach, what do you do when you're feeling bad? You click the bell, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're already pumping me up just telling me to click the bell. And I'm going to be frank. I'm one of those guys, I hit the subscribe. Sometimes I forget the bell. I'm going to remember to click the bell any other time I'm going for channels anymore. But yeah, no, seriously, click that bell icon. YouTube, that is one thing we'll say. They get wonky. They've been, for some reason, getting weirder with notifications in recent years. The bell icon and just fully giving if you want to do personalized, that's cool. But if you want to not miss anything we do, just put it on notifications for all our stuff. You'll see it come across your screen, whether it's a live show we do, one of the premieres that we're doing for these, which we premiere a lot of our stuff on anyway, or the clips.
Just new edition
as well, which you guys have been knocking it out of the park with the clips. Jesus Christ, we didn't expect that. So yeah, do that too. And then subscribe on your favorite podcast platform.
And links are all down in the description.
So, and that's all across the board.
And the Discord.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And the Discord. Speaking of which, since we're talking about the Discord, we got to talk about the second giveaway again. We brought it up in the beginning, but let's just reiterate. One, if you are Mystery Man, DM us on Twitter, redeem your prize. If you don't redeem us by Thursday, if you don't redeem it by Thursday, we're announcing a new winner on our next episode. But we also have the second one. So once we get to 250 subs here on YouTube, we're a little bit over 170. We're giving away another hat or t-shirt of your choosing from the USFL shop. So again, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube as well as the Discord. There's a link down in the description, and you're not even going to regret it. I'm telling you, you're going to click that Discord button. You're going to say, why have I not been in this group until now? I mean, like-minded spring football fans having a good time. And the two hosts you're listening to right now are always in there bantering, having a good time, answering questions, and, just talking football. So sign you up.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we're talking, this server is great. And I joined this even before I even was really talking with you as part of the same website. I mean, we're talking that we have, I believe it's pushing 500 members on there at this point. Like it's a big alternative football server. It's one of the bigger ones out there. And it's got a lot of good guys that, we talk about we talk about any of the news pieces, we debate. Like it's worth it. Like if you are a Discord guy and you are a football guy, highly recommend you click that invite button that we have linked. Check it out.
Good time too.
You won't regret it.
If you don't, you know what? No refunds. I don't care. You will though. Yeah.
Get to talk to us as well, by the way. That's part of it. You can talk to both of us on there outside the show.
Exactly.
So extra fan exposure.
Man, what a fun week. I'm so looking forward to next week. Yeah. This is so fun. Maybe we'll see. If my prediction is right, maybe we'll be talking about the confirmation of Birmingham. Hopefully we'll be talking about coaches. But as always, mailbag at usflcast.com. Hit up the voicemail, maybe leave a voicemail. I figure that'd be pretty cool if somebody decides to leave a voicemail. If you don't, we won't hold it against you. But, man, I think that's it. I think that's it for us.
That's about it. Yeah, that's going to do it, guys. Yeah, catch us on social. Check out some stuff if you want to submit questions. But we'll be back next week, hopefully with some more news to talk about, too. January's supposed to be a big month, and I know it was a quieter week, but they ain't going to stop. It's going to come. It's going to come sooner than you think on some of this stuff. And we're going to be having a blast talking about it as we go. 2 episodes in, this show's been a blast talking to you people and getting to know some of you. Until next one, we're signing off,
guys.
See you later.